There's a game, one more ancient than love, older than loyalty, and deadlier than war. A game where you were taught to focus on the visible, while the invisible devoured you. Every man feels it, the confusion, the betrayal, the pain, but no one tells him why. Today, that silence ends. They say, she's innocent, gentle, harmless. But is she really? Look deeper. Strip away the sweet smiles, the soft eyes, the delicate laughter, and what you'll find is not malice, no, but pure, calculated survival instinct. You see, nature never armed women with brute strength. It armed them with something far more dangerous: psychological warfare. Where a man confronts with fists, she confronts with silence, with absence, with seduction, with subtlety so precise that most men never even realize they're bleeding. She's the one who puts the body in motion by painting scenes that mediate between us. Look around, observe how easily a word, a glance, even a sigh, shifts the mood of a room, commands attention, changes behavior. Is it magic? No. It's mastery. Mastery of perception, of emotion, of influence. While men are taught to be direct, women are trained by nature itself to master the art of concealment. And here's the brutal truth. Her greatest power is that you don't believe she has any. You underestimate, and in doing so, you surrender, unknowingly. You were conditioned to focus on what is seen, her beauty, her softness, her charm. But that's just the packaging. Beneath it lies an operating system designed entirely for one thing: survival through manipulation of the environment. And in that environment, you are the most valuable resource. Ever wondered why silence from her feels like punishment? You would find so much admiration, and in that environment, why her withdrawal sends you into chaos, or why her validation feels like oxygen and her disapproval feels like drowning. This isn't an accident. It's not random. It's a carefully evolved mechanism designed to control outcomes without appearing to do so. The game is simple. Let the man believe he's leading, while quietly steering him wherever she chooses. And when you look back, when you trace the steps, you realize every decision you thought was yours was never really yours. It was planted, subtly, elegantly, without force, without threat, but with precision sharper than any blade. And while you were focused on conquering the outside world, she was conquering the one thing you neglected: your mind. What makes this even more sinister is that she does it so effortlessly. It feels natural. It feels right. It feels natural. It feels an axiom. It feels right. It feels deserved. Have you ever wondered, why does desire make men weak, predictable, even foolish? The answer is brutal, yet simple. Because desire, when unchecked, becomes a leash. And guess who holds that leash? Yes, her. You see, while men throughout history built kingdoms with their hands, women learned to control kingdoms without ever lifting a sword. They don't need to fight physically. Why would they, when they can simply control the one thing that drives most men? Desire. Think about it. The moment you desire, truly desire, you begin negotiating against yourself. You lower your standards. You bend, hoping, praying, chasing validation that was never meant to be given freely. It's not love, it's leverage. The more you want her, the more power she holds. And here's the cruel irony. The moment she senses you need her, she loses respect for you, but tightens the grip anyway. You become compliant, predictable, maneuverable. It's not that she consciously plots it. No, this is instinctual. Generations of survival taught her that a man who is intoxicated by desire is a man who can be led, controlled, and harvested for value. Have you noticed how the slightest withdrawal from her silence, coldness, distance, suddenly drives you mad? Suddenly, you're overthinking, questioning, doubting yourself. Why? Because your desire has become your prison. And the key? Well, she holds it, dangling it, just out of reach. This is how she shapes your behavior, pulls you closer, then pushes you away, gives you a taste, then starves you, validates you, then withdraws. And each time, your mind races. What did I do wrong? How do I get her back? What should I change? You never realize this was never about right or wrong. It's about control. Plain, cold, control. Because a man drowning in desire cannot lead, he cannot negotiate, he cannot say no. He becomes a slave to his own instincts, and worse, to hers. This is the unspoken game, the invisible contract written between biology and survival. And the tragic part? The more he invests, the less valuable he becomes in her eyes. Why? Because desperation smells, and it reeks of weakness, a scent no woman respects. They call it love, unconditional, eternal, pure. But is it really? Or is it something far more calculated, far more transactional than most men dare to accept? You see, what men often romanticize as love is in reality a negotiation. A silent, unspoken contract written not in words but in utility. Watch closely the moment a man stops providing value. Whether it's resources, protection, status, or influence, something begins to shift. The warmth fades, the enthusiasm cools, the affection becomes mechanical, distant, hollow. Suddenly, the smiles feel forced, the conversations dry, and the man wonders, what changed? Where did the love go? What did I do wrong? But here's the brutal truth. Nothing changed except your utility. This isn't about emotions, it never was. It's about survival, about selecting the strongest, most capable provider, the man who offers the highest chance of security, of advantage, of comfort. And when that is no longer present, nature withdraws the reward being her affection, her attention, her so-called love. It sounds cruel, but it's not cruelty. It's biology. It's the operating system running quietly beneath every interaction. Look around. When was the last time you saw a woman remain loyal to a man who became weak, broke, directionless? Rare, very rare. Why? Because unconditional love, despite the fairy tales, the movies, the songs, doesn't exist in the way men are taught to believe. The moment the benefits dry up, the clock starts ticking. Her presence becomes less frequent. Her interest begins to wither. Her patience wears thin. And you, the man, sit there drowning in confusion, wondering how something that felt so real, so genuine, could vanish so easily. But that's the deception, the grand illusion. Love, in its rawest form, is deeply conditional, tied directly to what you offer, who you are, what position you hold in the hierarchy of value. And yet, most men walk into this game blind, thinking sincerity, loyalty, effort will somehow override thousands of years of evolutionary programming. But the truth doesn't bend for ignorance. It doesn't care how kind you are, how much you sacrificed, or how deeply you cared. The ledger remains, always calculating, always measuring, always asking the silent question, what do you provide? There's a price for not knowing, a heavy one, paid in silence, confusion, and regret. You see, the world doesn't punish you for being weak. It punishes you for staying weak. The moment a man refuses to open his eyes, refuses to see how the game is actually played, he hands over his power, without even realizing it. Look around. How many men live their lives completely unaware, thinking they're loved for who they are, when in reality, they're only valued for what they provide? It's a harsh truth, but it's the truth nonetheless. And ignorance doesn't protect you, it enslaves you. The man who doesn't understand how his own desire is being weaponized against him becomes the easiest to manipulate, the easiest to control, the easiest to discard. He becomes the provider by default, the emotional safety net, the silent worker behind the curtain, completely replaceable the moment his value dips below expectation. And worst of all, he'll never see it coming. He'll stand there, shattered, asking himself, how did this happen? Why did she change? Where did the love go? But the signs were always there, hidden in plain sight. The problem wasn't her deception, it was his blindness. Because in a world where survival is the game, naivety is a crime. Understand this, those who refuse to study power will always be ruled by it. A man who doesn't recognize manipulation becomes a servant to it. A man who doesn't understand the rules becomes a pawn for those who do. And while society feeds him lies, whispers sweet illusions about love, loyalty, and fairness, reality keeps the score. Without mercy, without exceptions. Look closely, you'll see it everywhere. Men stripped of their dignity, drained financially, emotionally hollow, left wondering, what did I do wrong? While never realizing the only crime they committed was being blind to the truth. Because the game doesn't care how kind you are, how loving you are, how much you tried. It only respects one thing: awareness. The ability to see through the mask, to understand the exchange, to know exactly what is being traded, and to decide consciously whether the deal is worth it or not. The world won't hand you this truth. No, it was never meant for your ears. You were raised, conditioned to believe in the pretty lies, to chase illusions, to serve systems that feed on your ignorance. But now, the veil is lifted. You can no longer pretend, no longer hide behind the comfortable delusion that love is pure, that loyalty is unconditional, that intentions are always good. The truth is colder, sharper, and far less forgiving. But here's the harsh reality. Once you see it, you can never unsee it. You begin to notice the patterns, the tests, the games, the subtle power plays hidden behind smiles, affection, and carefully crafted words. And it hits you. This isn't personal, it's survival. The question now isn't, why does it work like this? No. The real question is, what are you going to do about it? You either wake up, reclaim control, sharpen yourself into a man who cannot be exploited, or you stay blind, obedient, useful, until you're no longer useful. This is the choice, the line drawn in the sand, the moment where ignorance dies and power begins.